Do you remember the game called Mercy? It looks kind of like this. So two people walk up to each other, lock hands in the air, and then using their strength, they try to twist the other person's wrists and fingers back until it hurts so bad that the other person cries out, "Mercy!" I actually have a friend who was playing this game years ago, and the person he was playing against refused to say mercy. Now, my friend I would classify as a pretty strong individual. And so he's wrenching this person's wrist back and back and back, and he actually ends up pinning him on the floor and continues wrenching his wrist back until he breaks almost every finger in this guy's hands. Now I don't approve of breaking a person's fingers over a game, but I do see in this story what I think to be a pretty fair representation of a lot of our relationships here on earth. Whether it's a child and parents, a spouse and a spouse, a worker and their manager. In so many of our relationships, we don't like to practice the word submission. Instead, we like to push and push and push and see how far we can get. We like to press the boundaries of those relationships. Sometimes we even like to push and push and push until that person cries out mercy, and in a sense we have broken them. We don't like to practice submission. And yet, Christ says, "Blessed are the peacemakers, for they will be called children of God." And with that in mind, I think that the Apostle Peter is writing to the early church. He seems to be speaking into a context where the church is asking themselves, what do we do in these relationships? My master is mean to me. My government, I don't really agree with everything they do. My spouse isn't as cleaned up as I like them to be. What am I supposed to do in these relationships? And the Apostle Peter says, as much as possible, submit. We are called to be peacemakers here on earth, not stir up trouble. Our Christ came and he lived a perfect life, and yet he was accused and slandered for things he didn't do. He was taken to a cross and nails pierced his hands and feet. And instead of crying out to be rescued, he said, "Father, forgive them, for they do not know what they do." We are called to be peacemakers, because when we do, we are representing our Christ, the Christ who came here and lived and died and rose again, a Christ who set aside his own comfort for the mission of his Father here on earth. And we are called to that mission also. We are called to advance the gospel through our lives, through what Christ has called us to here on earth. And we do that by living as peacemakers. And so that's our challenge this week. In all of our relationships, are we living as peacemakers? Are we willing to set aside what we want, what makes us comfortable? As much as possible, are we choosing to represent our peaceful King? Have a great week, everyone.